The Tribe is what I perceive to be an evolution of the fitness experience. So if we look at the boutique concept, which Tribe is, it's a 45-minute HIIT studio. We use the word luxe because of the feel, the sight, sound, smell aspect of the experience. But actually it takes the fitness realm of what's going on within the studio to another level. You're looking at the actual effort levels as opposed to people's fitness levels themselves. So I just see Tribe now as the next experience, the evolution of the fitness industry for the next 15 to 20 years.
So Tribe, from a franchising perspective, is just a really great business opportunity. I see it as a way of getting involved in that next evolution of fitness, that next evolution of what the customer demands from an experience point of view, from a team who've kind of been there, done that, and can really support you through. Experience is key for Tribe, and that's something that we really drive in store. As Carl kind of mentioned, around kind of sight, sound, smell, and everything in between, that's kind of what keeps driving customers coming back time and time again.
We have obviously the pleasure of Dean, obviously from Laps in today in the studio. I think number one, to experience as a professional footballer what the workout is and how it works. To realise that when you're in the studio, it's a leveler. So as a professional sports person, he could be next to somebody who's never done sport ever. But on the scoreboards, the effort boards you see on the screens, they could both be at 90% effort. So nobody actually knows who's working harder than the other person. But I think it's also around actually showing the value to what the workout brings, I think, to the individual from that point. And it's just great to have somebody in from Laps for the first time to experience a Tribe store. And we're hoping, we'll welcome many more people in the future as well, including future events with Laps members, and get them in the studio and get them working out. I've got the pleasure of saying I'm 29 years in this fitness industry, bar 3 or 4 years in and out studying. So I've been there as an instructor on the gym floor as a young teenager. I was a young teenager once, just getting out across. And I've been through those genre, the changes. So 2009, 2010, when we saw the birth of the low-cost gyms. And then we got to 2014, 15, where the boutique sector started to come through. We saw a natural increase of people using gyms, using facilities. But then people changed their idea of what they were looking for as more experience. And that's why we saw the boutique model of people focusing on specific parts of the industry. And it really has helped people now look at low-cost gyms alongside the boutique experience as a combination of memberships as opposed to one or the other. And I think Tribe for me has changed the dynamics of when we say first-to-market mover, where a new boutique business comes into the area. It's actually a market improver. It improves the experience based on other boutique models. And for me, that's why Tribe is going to actually spread globally around the world over the next 5-6 years. I mean, our target's 36 countries, in 5 to 6 years going forward. And I think Tribe will really achieve those goals.
What sets Tribe apart from the others is the attention to detail. So whether that's kind of the level of programming in the workout or kind of the experience you receive on mixology, even down to the ingredients that are selected to use in the shakes, every single detail has been thought about to really drive that best experience for the customer. And what's the beautiful thing about being a franchisor is that's already been thought about, and the years of experience that sits behind the Tribe team is then shown. So it's almost like the best of the best is kind of what you're getting from Tribe. What I also love, so kind of putting the lens of myself as a user of kind of fitness facilities, is the way that users can still go to the big box gyms, but there is absolutely a space for Tribe and that kind of specialised higher end experience and workout as well. And I think people are just starting to appreciate how both of those worlds can kind of work well together. So what I've found is our typical users tend to be kind of women in their kind of mid to late 20s, tend to come down with friends. So referrals are really great for that user group, but also not just that kind of category. What I'm starting to see now, after being open for some weeks, is the word of mouth is getting round. So we're starting to see kind of a little bit of broader user base. So slightly older females or males. But what I love the most is the diversity of the fitness levels. So one thing that Tribe are really passionate about is it's a workout for everyone, and we are seeing that start to come through now. So regardless of what your fitness level is, you can still have a really great workout. And the level of investment that goes into the recruitment and the continuous development of the coaches, and the way that the workout is set up so the coaches can really focus on individuals in the session themselves rather than worrying about the programming or the lights or the music. So the feedback we've got is that everybody feels like, yes, they're in a group workout situation, but they're getting that personalised attention from the coaches.
The payment usage for the TRIB, as we call them, so that's our customers, our user, is split across different areas of opportunity. So they can obviously they can do direct debit if they're going to be a long-term regular user. They can buy packages, so 5, 10, 20, 30 sessions at a go. But also we have aggregator partnerships as well, where people have the aggregator where you can use different studios across an area and actually go in and use different places through that process. So that there's different ways a TRIB can utilise access to a TRIB store. The beautiful thing I think with TRIB is also the fact you can actually share the packages with friends as well. So if I go in and have a 10-pack, I can give 9 sessions away to friends and family because we're all about usage. This is actually, we want the business to be where people come in and use the facility and not just pay a direct debit and don't show up. I always said the perfect member in the industry is somebody who pays £50 a month for a gym membership and never comes. I mean, for the industry, that's a perfect member. For us, that's a nightmare. We want everybody to show up, use the sessions and enjoy and come back time and time again.
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that actually is that in terms of the demographic that we see, so that kind of, mid-20s female customer, they love sharing packs. So as soon as we were able to kind of talk about that to them as a customer, we saw our kind of, our sales volumes increase, and we're seeing that usage being driven now as well through that, even though we're only kind of a few weeks in, because, working out with a friend is much more motivating than working out on your own.
Because you can literally come in and do a session or buy 10 or 20 or what it might be, you can work out to your own budgets and your own availability. We have university teams come in, sports teams. So outside of if a store's doing 10 sessions a day, the actual store team themselves and the franchisee can go to local businesses and offer a specific one-off session for their team building exercises as well. So you do that in between your daily sessions with a value to it. So you can actually upsell almost team building sessions for businesses, companies, sports teams. In Sheffield and Leeds, I know we've had netball teams, football teams, rugby teams come in to do team building workouts outside of the normal session timetable.
I think as well with COVID, what we've found is that a lot of corporates are now wanting to invest more in their kind of company's well-being, and they might not have the facilities to facilitate that on site. So there's definitely, I've seen an increase in companies wanting to buy sessions on a regular basis to give to kind of their employees as a real kind of health benefit.
The benefits of franchising, and I'm looking everywhere now because for me, I was reinvented in 2010-11 when I found franchising. As an industry, I think a lot of people in the UK don't know what franchising is. They perceive it to be a train line. Who's running the Northwest franchise right now? The High Street store, the Next, the Debenhams, they call it a franchise. They're not really franchises in my book. A franchise is when you have a proven, tested model of a business where the lessons have been learnt and the risks have been reduced, and therefore you can open your business knowing you can't guarantee 100% success, as we said earlier, but actually you're reducing the risk to a level where all the lessons have been learnt. And for me, that's the strongest part of franchising. Any business that's out there, a franchisor should have gone through that process of pain, learning what makes the business work, what makes the business tick, but actually what also doesn't work in the business, and listening to the people around them to actually know if something's working or if it's not. And especially from a franchisee's point of view, within a franchisor, which is the main centre part of the business, you have a situation where the franchisee may have something going on and it doesn't quite work for them within the business because it's localised, because it's in their certain area where they're functioning, where they're trading. The franchisor can listen to these things and change that up as well. So franchising is about not being on your own. It's about actually following the lessons learned, and it's about actually following a proven, tested model that reduces the risk. I think professional sports people have a different type of mindset. It's a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly program setting mindset of competition and how they get themselves to be the best of the best. And I think that mindset within business actually also helps. However, in franchise business, it's following the guidelines, following the processes, following the procedures, and it's all the things you need to do to follow your coaching directions, follow your nutritionist directions, following the people around you to actually get to the best level you can be. Same with the franchise. Follow the steps and guidelines in place to achieve the best your business can achieve. You can never guarantee 100% success in business, but you can, and this comes later actually within the interview as well, you can minimize the risk. And I think professional sports people actually have a unique way of processing what they need to do next to get to the next steps. I think within franchise businesses, there's a level at which a franchisee can be involved with their business. TRIB specifically put in place a specific management support process for franchisees who have a lot of commitments, a lot of time they can't spend with their sideline businesses or secondary businesses. But there is also a situation where a franchisee doesn't have to be involved with the business 24/7. The idea of actually having a good franchise business is the franchisee can oversee the running of the business. They can actually see how the staff are performing via the systems and the reports and the data provided, but also they can motivate. And again, one thing about professional sports people from any genre is they can motivate people around them, because a lot of them are team focused, some individual teams, but they still have to motivate themselves. So motivation is key for staff, but that doesn't mean you have to be in there 24/7. It's actually up to the franchisee how much time they spend in the business. What I will say is for the first 6 months, the more the franchisee is involved with the business, the faster the business moves forward, is the best way to put it. So there's different levels at which the franchisee engages, but they don't have to be in there full time.
So for my franchise, we did choose to go with the TRIB International to fully manage the store. For many reasons. I don't come from a fitness or wellbeing background, so I don't have that expertise. One of the reasons why I bought into a franchise in the first place. But what it also does is allow me to use the experts that TRIB International have, also very conveniently on the doorstep for Manchester. So it kind of made, it was a bit of a no-brainer for me. But what I've loved is that we've been able to work together, like Carl had mentioned, for the first 6 months. How do we really accelerate the growth of that store? So I did make the choice, even though it was fully managed, to move to Manchester to support the store through its first 6 months. But absolutely, the idea is, we can then kind of fully step away, and you never know, maybe open another one.
I mean, for hours working, and Katie, you work this alongside consultancy work that you do from that point, which is a good number of hours a day. And I guess it depends on the sports person's hourly commitments through a day as well. So if we're a professional sports person, maybe doing 2 or 3 hours of training a day, there's time to pop into the studio, there's time to go in and motivate the staff, etc., and be there through that period of time. But they don't have to be there full time. So yes, you could run this on the side of actually professional sport, but there's a lot of commitments there as well to be elsewhere and travelling and competing. So TRIB themselves can actually support more of the management process for the franchisee should that be needed through that point, which allows a franchisee to grow exponentially from that point on. It's also a point actually on the opening phase for a sports person where it's up to their team they recruit. So if a sports person opens a store and their store manager is of the right level of strength and understanding and knowledge base and experience, that person could go on to manage more of their stores on their behalf as an operations lead from that point of view. So it's also down to the team you recruit right at the beginning.
In my position, I can be quite flexible to a point in terms of the clients that I work with. So I found that having that great team recruited to be able to manage the store and have the confidence in them managing the store enables me to kind of flex around that. So potentially, some days I will be in there every single day, and then there'll be times where, it just isn't physically possible. But I know and I have confidence in the team who are running it. And also kind of that regular communication is so important, whether it's with the team as well, whether you're kind of there or not, but also with TRIB International, obviously having the management agreement in place with them as well. I always feel that I'm up to date, regardless of how visible I've actually been in store myself. Right from the very beginning, from the moment kind of signed the franchise agreement, got all sorts of support from kind of sourcing and selecting your site, through to the financials, through to marketing, and everything in between. So right from the very beginning, you've got a team around you who know what they're doing, who've worked in that industry before and can really help accelerate and some of those processes, or kind of, some of the difficulties that you may come across in sourcing a site. They've been there, they've done that, they know what we need to do to kind of work through it. And that doesn't stop. So, right from getting the site open and beyond, we continuously have the team in store monitoring what's working, what changes we need to make down to its locality, for instance. So there's a constant level of support from operations, marketing, finance, and we have regular meetings in the diary to make sure everyone's up to date and up to speed on what's going on and what we need to do next.
I think there are a lot of franchise businesses in the UK, and the right franchise businesses will look at supporting all franchisees. And if a franchisee comes into the industry and have never been in the industry, the whole focus of a franchise business is to take anybody who's not been in that relevant industry, so fitness, for example. And we have IT consultants, accountants, people that have never been around fitness, working but have an interest in it. And therefore, the franchisor's role, which is our role, is to give them the skills they need to be able to actually start that business from scratch. Any franchise business that doesn't help with site selection, you can't guarantee a site success again, but you can minimize the risk based on lessons learned historically. So the more the franchisor is involved with those processes, for me, the more it reduces the risk. As long as the franchisor isn't making false claims to the franchisee, that's key. The franchise industry is not about false claims. It should be about delivering a product that has less risk and has the best opportunity to actually give a lifestyle choice to the franchisee. In the UK, we've got several stores in the UK from our ownership point of view. Katie is the first fully fledged franchisee open in the UK, but we've got several franchisees obviously who are going to be opening stores over the next 4 or 5 months. And the whole focus for us, both in UK, Spain, international as well, is, for example, Lorena, our franchisee in Madrid, who actually opened through COVID and has been trading for the last 9 months now, through reduced measures, etc. We have our franchisees in Finland who are doing so well right now. Their numbers are through the roof, and they're showing the rest of us how to deliver fitness as well. So we've got partners internationally who have been franchising for a number of years. The UK now is the most important drive for us. It's actually how we grow the UK market. We will look internationally for more expansion, but the biggest focus for us now is UK and Spanish markets, where our 2 bases are, and we're looking to recruit more and more successful franchisees like Katie around the UK over the next 5 years. There are different sizes to all TRIB stores. So Southampton, for example, will be one of our smallest stores to date. So sitting just in the low 2,000 square foot category. So you just have a studio, a couple of changing areas, toilets, etc. The largest stores like Edinburgh, which is actually 5,000 square feet, is one of our largest stores in the portfolio. So the store variation will change depending on location. So Barcelona, for example, our stores will be much smaller in Barcelona than they are in Madrid, because the size of territory and property is much more condensed and the units are smaller as well. So as long as we can get a studio in to a unit, which is the 1,700 square feet of a rectangle shape, that's the biggest driver. What comes next is how much space you have outside to fill the rest of the equation in. So there's a lot of variety, and then the cash availability of the franchisee. I think location is a really good question. I think for anybody when they're looking at property, within a property franchise, we're looking for a certain amount of people in a demographic area within a region. And I think if the demographic region is, let's say you go into a small village town area where there's 15,000 people living, and you do the breakdown of those numbers, there's probably not enough to sustain even a boutique store, where you're only probably looking at 500, 600, 700 members to be your core usage base on a regular basis. But if you go into the smaller towns, smaller areas where the brand will get to be known very quickly, we know we can get to 60, 70,000 people, or less if the demographic model fits for the population, the male to female ratios, the income level of the area, the location, premises, is it seeable? Can you actually see it going past? Is the footfall high? Can you stop to get in there? Can you promote yourself? When you walk out of the studio, where do your users come from? There's a lot of factors you have to use to make sure the location works. But if you go into a location, as the question says, where it's a smaller town but there may be a few gyms, we will then analyse the competitor analysis and say, actually, can we go in there and actually use the members they've got to actually complement their memberships as well? So there's a lot of factors before you say yes or no to a location, but that's the key part of franchising, is that you don't just say yes or no, this area, you analyse and then come to a decision on a joint basis that you're going to move forward with that location. So the most important part with territories in franchising is what you don't want is if the franchise location is the nucleus and then you've got a ring of territory around that point, that's your demographic area. What you don't want to do is overlap other territories onto the same franchisee's territories from that point of view, because that's just bringing competition into the same brand from that point of view. So the modeling point as well with using the geographical systems we use is to make sure if you're going to put, for example, 3-4 stores in Manchester, for example, you've got to make sure they're not just internally competing with each other. So Deansgate, for example, and Circle are pretty much a kilometre away from each other. So within Manchester Circle, Manchester Deansgate, the actual density of the areas around there, I mean, there's a lot of people in a short radius. So people will only be looking to go maybe 5 minutes from where they are to use a facility. So you can go into a city with 2 or 3, Manchester size was 1 million people, I think, in Manchester. But in London, you could have 24 stores in the London region because of actually how condensed the population is within that location. Whereas if you go into a small town like Bristol, you may get 1 or 2 in there, or Southampton, maybe 1 in the centre. So it's down to area population density is the biggest driver. I think that the investment side of franchising, COVID, this can be very time specific because obviously we're talking kind of 18 months, 20 months after COVID commencing. And COVID actually threw a lot of challenges out there for all businesses, I think, and obviously rescue packages, etc. But franchising historically is a strong proposition for banks. They like franchising because of the risks being reduced. What we tend to talk about is the total cost of opening, as opposed to actually what you need and what they need and what you need to bring together to make it work. So total cost of opening the doors to a working studio, which means open your doors to a working TRIB store, can be anything from £240,000 and upwards, depending on the facilities you've got within the unit. So if you look at our TRIB studio, if you go to Deansgate, to Katie's store, or to here at Iris House in Manchester Circle, the studio itself is actually it's the same. I'd say very similar, but it's the same studio format. What's different is when you come outside of the studio and the facilities on offer and available outside the studio, and that's where you find the extra cost as well. So we work with the total cost of opening. We then work with leasing partners and banking partners on how you then disseminate between what the total cost is, what the franchisee has as a liquid cash point of view, which is how much money in the pocket, and then how much the total cost works with the finance, with the leasing, and with the franchisee's financial investment. And that's where you really come to the crux of it. But I would say for any franchisee partner, ideally they want to be starting about 140,000 of their own cash. Is the simplest way to put it. The rest then comes from leasing, comes from finance, and then we work on the size of property that matches the budgets available. That's the biggest thing. It's a reverse engineer of the process. So it's a science behind how you make it work. So we come to Iris House, which obviously is a big central office with the offices above us as well. It all looks very big and grand, and a franchisee unit, which is the true mechanisms of franchising, is where the work happens, which is the studio, the mixology, the retail, and the changing areas.
From a franchisee perspective, I had the pleasure of opening during the pandemic. And so the traditional kind of finance options that were available to me pre-pandemic that were agreed all got pulled. So there was a lot of work to do to then understand, from a cash flow perspective, obviously preserving cash, but also kind of where's the opportunity, where can we use potentially leasing more than we would kind of more traditional finance models. And that's really where the TRIB team came in to really support through that period. So some of the kind of the hints and tips I would say that's applicable whether whether it's the pandemic or it's not the pandemic, is just be really clear about what money you have got available, kind of liquid money available, and kind of what you're prepared to kind of fund ongoing. I think one of the key things that I found is that the clearer I am in terms of the plan, the financial forecast, the easier the conversations become with whoever you might be approaching for that finance.
Kate's absolutely right. From a franchise business opening in COVID, I think it's such a big message, I think, because we had Lorena in Spain, Katie over here in the UK, all opening probably the most challenging time of anybody's life, since World Wars. It's the biggest global challenge we've had. Yet we've had people like Katie and Lorena who've actually stepped forward and opened businesses through that period and are still driving through, coming out of the other end when there are solutions now to take the world forward into the next decade. So I think for me as a message to anybody out there looking at franchising, that's probably the biggest message for me is what Katie really pointed to, is if we can do it through COVID, we can open them at any time. So the next 5 to 10 years in franchising is going to be very exciting, because we saw the same effect in 2009-10 with the recession that happened then. Franchising for the next 5 to 7 years really took off, more so, and there's never been a drop in franchising historically. So I think we're going to see a real golden period now of franchising again over the next 5 to 7 years. So the goal of any franchise business is, I always say the most important question is the cash flow break even. So this is where the franchisee has paid out a lot of cash to open the doors to the studio. They've taken on the leasing, taken on the loans, they have operating costs with staff. So there's cash going out, that's your operating costs. The cash coming in is the most important number, because we want the cash coming in to overtake the amount it costs to run the business, which is cash flow break even. There's more cash in the business than there is going out. And for me, that's the golden window for any franchisee. Ideally, we want to target that to be in less than 6 months, to have more cash coming in than operating costs going out. We really want then the whole return of investment on what it's cost you to open the doors to the business to be less than 3 years, because then you know you're in a really, really flourishing business. And that then leads to people like Katie talking about, well, maybe then we'll open a second store within that period, because we can see that happening. And the banks love that message. The banks will support more and more with funding when you've got your first site open and they can see the returns coming in. The banks will happily support with more funding for the sites numbers 2 and 3. So all of a sudden, franchising becomes just literally a multiplier of itself from that point of view. So yeah, I think it's key to get to cash flow break even and then start getting your cash back from that point.
If you've got the cash and you've got the passion, then just kind of take that leap and do it. I think you can spend a lot of time convincing yourself of reasons why not, but hopefully you've heard that there's enough support around you to make it happen regardless of your circumstances. So it's fun, it's challenging, it'll definitely make you grow as a person in different ways, but it's super exciting, and we're kind of month 1 being open, but we're already excited about what's next, what's coming this year, and hopefully another site. So I'd just say take the leap. I don't know if that's advice or not.
It's good advice. It's good advice. I think the word that comes to mind for me is scale of economy. I think for anybody who is in sport professionally, either via being a young sports person who is in that position where maybe the contract isn't renewing, for example, which we know happens a lot in sport, or the retiring sports person, or the person thinking I'm retiring in the next 3 to 5 years, what's my succession plan from that point of view? And I think the scale of economy point of franchising allows you to grow exponentially. So if one store returns to you, a 6-figure number as an EBITDA, as the important line of any P&L within business, and we help support that, by the way, that's not a problem. The whole factor is the more stores you open, the higher the EBITDA, so the higher the net value of the business comes, which actually for any sports person allows them to have that financial freedom. So I think anybody who's looking to either do it via they've just finished sport, then it's the right time to start. But anybody who's also probably within 5-10 years of actually looking to how they're going to exit sport, is also the right time to open their own franchise business, because by the time they exit and retire, they could also have several stores there to support them ongoing. And I've always said the most important thing with anybody in financial freedom is multiple streams of income. So I think if people can develop multiple streams of income from several stores, then if one store they eventually do use to cash in and make some money on one store sale, because you can sell internally to other franchisees, then it just means they can clear cash as well, but also maintain the income levels they're expecting from their previous professional career. So I'd welcome anybody who's in any stage of their career right now to investigate franchising, absolutely.
So I had an incredible workout at TRIB. It was 45 minutes long, really intense, really tough, all round, based around your heart rate. Had to get in your heart rate zone for 15 minutes. So thankfully for me, I got in right at the end, and it was a really good workout. I'd absolutely encourage fellow teammates, other LAPS members to come down here, come to TRIB. It's a fantastic workout. It gives you everything you need in 45-minute session. And there's even a monster session, I think it's called. That's 90 minutes if you want to go even harder. But in 45 minutes, you get a fantastic workout. There's a running cardio element and there's a weight-based element as well. It really pushes you to your limits, and you get a fantastic burn at the end of it.